poor Donald Trump, he's having a rough time, and his poor tiny little brain is getting more and more mixed up as he gets older, and as Kamala Harris continues to beat his ass in the polls, beat his ass in a debate. It's really starting to get to him, and he's getting confused. I think the fact that he's older now is, and he's showing some severe mental decline, that it's getting to him, and he doesn't really know what's happening now. He doesn't know what's going on around him. He doesn't know where he's at. Recently, he was just on the Greg Gutfeld show, and Greg Gutfeld, I mean, you talk about cringe-worthy comedy. Greg Gutfeld, which, by the way, gets higher ratings than a lot of the people on the major networks like Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon and sorry, I don't know what that is. Who's the other one? Anyway, I'll remember. Stephen Colbert. Sorry, Jesus. But Stephen Colbert, he gets higher ratings than them, but part of the reason why is because there's only one outlet for those guys to go to, and that's Greg Gutfeld's show. So they don't have, there's 3 different guys there, and they kind of split up. But, when you talk about overall viewership and you take a look at, how many followers they have on YouTube and all that stuff, those 3 will dominate Greg Gutfeld. Greg Gutfeld is just a very cringe-worthy person. He thinks he's hilarious. He thinks he's funny on a show. He thinks he's funny on the 5. But recently he had Donald Trump on his show. Huge guest, Donald Trump. And poor Donald was talking about the debate. And take a listen to see if you can hear what I hear about a little bit of his mental decline.
Yeah.
But all of them, and they didn't correct her once, and they corrected me everything I said practically, and I think 9 times or 11 times, and the audience was absolutely, they went crazy. And the real, I thought it was, I walked off, I said, that was a great debate. I loved it. You got a lot of people watch. I guess we had 75 million people watching, something like that. And you have to do well. You can't do badly. For instance,
well, first of all, he did very badly. And large part of the reason why he did badly is because Kamala Harris just absolutely destroyed him. There is nobody that could watch that debate, look anybody in the eye and go, Donald Trump won that debate. You just can't, unless you just don't have the capacity to understand how badly he got beat. That's the only thing that I can come up with. You just don't really understand words. So if you don't understand words, you don't understand that Kamala Harris just absolutely destroyed him in that debate. But of course, the big clip, or the big soundbite in that clip, is Donald Trump saying that the crowd went nuts whenever he said what he had to say, and the crowd loved it. They were cheering him. I'm assuming he was thinking that they were not cheering Kamala Harris as much, and I'll agree with him. They were not cheering Kamala Harris at all. I mean, the crowd just was silent every time she said something. But the problem for Donald Trump is that they were silent for him too, because there was no crowd. There was zero crowd in the audience, and this poor son of a bitch is trying to tell a panel of people, and however many millions, I don't know if hundreds of thousands or millions of people watch Greg Gutfeld, was trying to tell them that the crowd went nuts. Now, of course, Greg Gutfeld and nobody else would have the balls to explain to him that there was no crowd and nobody was going wild. They just let him go on with his nonsense. But he was also talking about the debate again at a conference with Israeli people. And he also made another comment about the Jewish people that I'll get to here in a second. But again, this is how Donald Trump's brain, it's just so teeny tiny. He can't handle that he got his ass beat in the debate. And he thinks he's just going to convince the room. He's going to convince everybody around him that he won by saying nonsense, but this is him talking at a convention today and or the other day, whatever it was, and how he won the debate.
I won that debate by a lot. By a lot. You know, I walked off the stage, I said, man, did I beat her, even though I was against 3 people.
No, you weren't.
I kept saying, I said, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't normally for people that aren't like Donald Trump, you would feel sorry for these kind of people. You'd be like, oh man, this poor bastard. Like, he went through his whole life and he was known as somebody that was revered and a lot of people loved him. And now he's just at a very sad state in his life, trying to convince people that he's still a winner and that, you know, everybody loves him. But he's a horrific and awful human being. So I don't feel sorry for him. But this is a stage of his life now where it's sad and pathetic. And even more sad and pathetic is really the hanger-oners, right? The people in the background, and they're clapping at whatever he says, just like at that economic conference that he had in New York last week, where he was giving nonsensical answers to very complex questions, and people were clapping at the end because he just said, "Make America Great Again," and they started clapping. I brought up the point before. It reminded me at the end of Billy Madison when he gave this absolutely ridiculous answer in this question that he had to answer, and he knew it wasn't going anywhere. So at the very end, he just said, "Nib High football rules." That's the high school he went to, and the crowd went nuts. Very similar feel. If you saw Billy Madison, you would know what I'm talking about. If you did not see Billy Madison, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But anyway, you know, Donald Trump too is at a point where he needs to get voters, right? He needs to add voters. This is a very bizarre strategy on adding voters to people who are going to be voting in November. And in this particular instance, this is his reach out to the Jewish community.
If I don't win this election, and the Jewish people would really have a lot to do with that if that happens, because at 40%, that means 60% of the people are voting for the enemy.
First of all, the enemy. He's calling me. He's calling anybody that does not vote for him an enemy, which is, I mean, just really on its face, just very offensive and very outrageous and ridiculous. Now, is this like a snowflake that go, oh my God, I'm offended? No, I'm not. I'm more like a fuck you, you fucking asshole. You're going to call me the enemy? Okay, I can't wait to beat your ass down in November. I cannot wait to see that. And I'm going to laugh every second of every fucking day when you get your ass beat down in November, and then you cry to your flying monkeys to try to get them to attack the Capitol again, while most of the country, actually most of the world, will be out in the streets celebrating your defeat, you fucking dickhead. But this is the way he thinks he's going to reach out to voters. And part of that is that in his life, he's been used to talking down to people and having people going, no, sir, don't worry, I got your back. Yes, sir. And for some reason, I think this is a tactic he thinks he's going to take with a certain community and sort of bully them into voting for them or make them feel bad into voting for them. But here's his problem. The problem is that for the most part, Americans, the majority of Americans, are exhausted by this guy. They're over him. They're done with this absurdity that he has brought, not just to politics, but to this country, to the world. And they are exhausted and they're done by it. And the people that he just spoke to, the Jewish people that he spoke to, my guess is that a large majority of them are going to go, who in the fuck do you think you're talking to? Now, those might not be the words verbatim, but in that respect, I believe that that's probably the attitude that you're going to see. But here's the thing. I got a few more Donald Trump clips, and the beauty of Donald Trump clips are, at least in the political realm, is that they are fodder for shows like mine. There's absolutely no question about it. I admit it. You know, when he speaks, it's easy to play these clips and it's easy to rail on. But part of the reason now is why I want to get Donald Trump clips in is because we're running out of time. There's not going to be many more Donald Trump clips. We have about a little over 6 weeks left until the Donald Trump clips start to get fewer and fewer as any of these kind of shows go along. And any Donald Trump clips that will be played after November are going to be dealing with a few things. They're going to be dealing with the lower percentage of flying monkeys that are going to be out there trying to demand that he is still president and that he won the election. That's not going to go very far, because this time you have a responsible leader in charge. And if any of these losers put on their loser militia costumes and try to attack the Capitol, or they try to attack any sort of entity that would overturn the election, they're going to find that this time it's going to be really, really bad for them. I mean, right now you've got to think, they got to as far as breaking into the Capitol. They did not get to the people in that chamber that were certifying the election that night. Had they done that, could have been a very awful thing, but they didn't get to them. But what happened? Numerous flying monkeys had been caught on camera. They had been, some of these idiots posted it themselves, how proud they were breaking into the Capitol that day and what they were going to do. And now many of them are sitting in a jail cell. And because Donald Trump will not be there to bail them out, and I'm skeptical as to whether or not he'd bail them out anyway, to be quite honest with you, but their lives had been ruined with him in charge. Without him in charge, I think you're going to have a lot of people going, yeah, I'm pissed, and I am suckered into thinking that this election was stolen, but I ain't going to jail for this asshole. I mean, that just ain't happening. So, anyway, my point is that I have a couple more Donald Trump clips, and the reason why I'm going to get these clips out of the way is because I don't believe there's going to be that many more, and the ones that we play next year are going to be mostly based on his criminal trials. But this is Donald Trump trying to answer a young lady's question about how we're going to bring down the cost of food. If anybody can explain to me just exactly what he's talking about, I'd love to understand. But this is Donald Trump's plan to bring down the cost of food.
Are you going to bring down the cost of food and groceries?
Good. Very good. Thank you.
I might be wrong. Why do I get this feeling that he sees a black woman and this is his way to say, oh, very good. That was very good. Like, I'm going to compliment this black woman to show everybody that I'm not racist. I just get that feeling. I might be wrong, but I'm sure there's other people who feel the same way.
So we have to start always with energy. Always. I don't want to be boring about it, but there's no bigger subject. It covers everything. If you make donuts, if you make cars, whatever you make, energy is a big deal. And we're going to get that. It's my ambition to get your energy bill within 12 months down 50%. If I can do that.
First of all, that's not happening. I mean, you're just never going to get the energy bill down 50% unless he does what he rails against. And that is, do these green sort of energy policies that would hurt his big time oil buddies. But let's let him continue.
You've done a hell of a job. 5-0, not 15, 50. Interest rates are going to follow, and actually they're going to follow for another reason. The economy is now not good.
The question was, how are you getting down the cost of food? And he said, energy, we're going to bring down your electric bills. And then he brings up this
interest rates. You'll see
nonsense about interest rates, how interest rates are going to bring down the price.
They'll do the rate cut and all the political stuff tomorrow, I think. And, will he do a half a point? Will he do a quarter of a point? But the reason is because the economy is not good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it.
The economy is great, by the way.
But we're going to get interest rates down, and we got to work with our farmers. Our farmers are being decimated right now. They're being absolutely decimated. And, one of the reasons is we allow a lot of farm product into our country, and we're going to have to be a little bit like other countries. We're not going to allow so much
Okay, so we're going to bring down energy prices. We are going to cut interest rates, and we're going to help farmers. Now, the last one was, I don't know, a quarter of an answer, even though farmers under his administration, costs continue to rise, and he wasn't exactly that great for farmers under his administration. In fact, it was better under the Biden administration than it was under the Trump administration. But that was his answer on how you're going to bring down food costs. Let me give everybody out there just a little bit of insight as to Donald Trump's plan on bringing down food prices. Donald Trump does not give one shit about bringing down food prices. Donald Trump cares about a few things. He cares about winning the presidency of the United States, mainly 100%, because it keeps him out of prison. That's the main reason, and really the only reason at this point why he's running. If there wasn't this prospect of him going to prison, I mean, maybe because of his ego, he would probably still run, but there's a possibility he wouldn't be running had it not if it's not keeping him out of prison. But the second thing is that all he cares about is helping his incredibly rich friends. And helping his incredibly rich friends means allowing them to keep food prices high, to allow them to set costs to whatever it is they want to set it to. So lowering food prices, if you really wanted to lower food prices, you'd give some sort of answer like Kamala Harris does and says, you know what? If we have something like a pandemic, we are no longer going to allow this price gouging going on so corporations can continue to make record profits while you're paying more in food while people are losing jobs because of something like a pandemic. That will be illegal. That's not communism, by the way, and anybody that thinks that just doesn't understand what communism is. And not to mention, many states have price gouging laws. Like in the state of Florida here, if a hurricane comes through, you can't just jack up the prices of gas and you can't jack up the prices of everything. In Texas, they have laws against jacking up prices. So this is not a new thing. This is something that already exists. But Kamala Harris wants to make this a federal thing where it's nationwide, and you cannot have companies bragging on phone calls about their record profits while the rest of the Americans are suffering. To me, that's a win. How in the world would anybody be against that other than you don't understand what Kamala Harris is talking about? The reason why you don't understand it is because you're being fed nonsense by people on television, like on Fox News or Newsmax or podcasters or whatever it is that you listen to, because they're in bed with people who make a lot of money, because these people make a lot of money. It's really not difficult to figure out, but that's really what's going on. But anyway, the last Donald Trump clip, this is kind of weird for me. So his wife, Melania, is coming out with a new book, and this is Donald Trump talking about his wife and her new book, about how he hasn't even read it and doesn't know what's in it, but is sort of pitching it. I don't know. Listen to this clip and tell me if you don't find it a little strange.
First Lady, who can draw a crowd? Did you watch me tonight on television, First Lady? People love our First Lady out there. Go out and get her a book. She just wrote a book. I hope she said good things about it. I don't know. I didn't. So busy. She just wrote a book called Melania. Go out and buy it. It's great. And if she says bad things about me, I'll call you all up and I'll say, don't buy it. Get rid of it. No, but
I mean,
you going to bring
that's very bizarre. I mean, that's just a guy talking about his wife, says he hasn't even read her book, has no idea what's in it. Obviously, these two are not talking to each other. So I don't know what's going on with these two. Well, yeah, I know what's going on with these two. She can't stand him. And he's sort of desperate to keep her in the loop to make it look and have this appearance as if they're married, because Donald Trump already doesn't like to be embarrassed. And if his wife leaves him, especially in the middle of a campaign, then it's extremely embarrassing. So for me, it's quite clear that all he's doing at this point is probably, in a sense, begging her, please, just stick through this. Let's figure out what happens after this election, and then we can figure it out from there. My guess is that they're already going to get divorced. If for some strange reason he wins, there's going to be a monster payoff for her to pretend like she's still his wife. Those two don't even spend time together in the same home every night. She is clearly in a different place than he is. The fact that the media never brings this up is bizarre. They don't, where's the interview with Melania? Where is an interview with Trump about his wife and where she's at? And is she campaigning? She's obviously not campaigning with him. So she showed up at the RNC for 5 seconds, went out on the stage, let him give her a kiss on the cheek, and she was like, okay, I hope that $500,000 is in my bank account tomorrow. And that pretty much is all that feels like.